Take a look at this document. Most of us are taught that the blueprint for a federal republic, independent states binding together under a single constitution, was drafted in 1776 by the American founding fathers. But the political operating system driving that document was actually engineered 3,000 years earlier, deep in the mountains of the Middle East. Before we reveal exactly where this happened, drop your best guess in the comments below and hit subscribe if you want to see history from a totally new angle. Tracing the origins of this system back to the ancient world forces us to rethink the timeline of human freedom and who exactly designed the architecture of modern democracy. This is a topographical model showing how geography dictates government. In the flat, unbroken plains of ancient Egypt or Babylon, a central ruler could easily march an army across the terrain, allowing absolute power to radiate out and consolidate into a dictatorship. But in the mountainous region next to it, power is naturally fractured by deep valleys and impassable ridges. We are looking at the Zagros Mountains, the ancestral homeland of the Kurds, known in antiquity as the Medes. For centuries, these towering rock walls acted as natural fortresses. Every valley housed a distinct tribe that operated with total autonomy. But that isolation left them incredibly exposed. As seen in this ancient relief, the neighboring Assyrian Empire possessed a highly organized, technologically advanced war machine. They routinely launched brutal raids into the Zagros Mountains to plunder grain, steal horses, and take captives. The Median tribes found themselves in a lethal trap. The harsh geography that insulated them from local dictators also kept them divided, making them easy pickings for a massive, unified foreign army. When the Assyrians marched into the mountains, individual tribes would stand their ground and fight. But numerical inferiority meant that each brave tribe was inevitably snapped in half by the sheer weight of the Assyrian forces. The ancestors of the Kurds realized that surviving this onslaught required a massive compromise. They had to willingly surrender a fraction of their fierce local independence to build a combined military front. Look at this political cartoon from the American Revolution. The logic driving the American colonies to unite under the threat of a British Empire was identical to the strategy born in the Zagros Mountains 3 millennia earlier. This was a calculated political evolution. They figured out how to extract strength from their unified diversity without letting a single supreme leader take over. To build this system, they needed an architect. According to historical records, the tribes held a massive council and selected a local judge named Diogenes. He wasn't chosen through divine right or military conquest. He was elected by a democratic consensus based entirely on his reputation for fairness. Diocetes rejected the absolute monarchies of Egypt and Babylon. Instead, he engineered a confederation. Outer tribal nodes maintained strict local autonomy, keeping their own leaders, laws, and customs. The central hub had authority over exactly two things: directing foreign war to defend the network, and acting as a neutral judge to prevent civil conflicts. This document is the first constitution of the United States. Notice the phrase confederation and perpetual union between the states. The architectural logic dividing state power from federal duties is the exact same structure Diocetes built. The ancestors of the Kurds had established a blueprint that balanced two opposing needs: the scale of a superpower and the independence of a tribe. To anchor this new union, they constructed a capital city called Ecbatana, located in modern-day Hamadan. We can still walk through its ruins today. Ancient accounts describe Ecbatana as being ringed by 7 concentric, uniquely colored walls. Each hue served as a visual marker, representing one of the 7 founding Median tribes. Look at the design of the original American flag with its 13 individual stars arranged in a circle. The visual communication is identical to the walls of Ecbatana. Both societies understood that for a massive union to actually work, the central government had to publicly and visibly honor the distinct individual identities of the groups that built it. The results of this political invention were immediate. By combining their forces, the Median tribes transformed from isolated targets into a unified superpower that systematically pushed the Assyrian army out of the Zagros. 3,000 years ago, they proved a radical concept. A nation doesn't need an absolute tyrant to project strength. When constructed carefully, local liberty is the most potent fuel for national power. But pushing the Assyrians back was only the beginning. In Part 2, we'll see how this united army marched down from the mountains to burn the Assyrian capital to the ground, and we'll look at the modern genetic science linking these ancient tribes to the region today. What do you think about this ancient confederation? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. For centuries, the Assyrian Empire was the shadow of terror over the Middle East, a military machine that no single nation could stop. That changed when a unified force of mountain cavalry and archers came pouring out of the Zagros, shattering the Assyrian ranks in open battle. King Cyaxares achieved this by fundamentally restructuring how his people fought. He took the independent, scattered tribes of the Zagros and integrated their regional forces into a centralized federal army. They maintained their local identities, but for the first time they operated under a single coordinated command. In 612 BC, this Median Federation and their Babylonian allies arrived at the gates of Nineveh, the feared Assyrian capital. They breached the city's massive fortifications and brought the empire to a total collapse, shifting the entire geopolitical map of the ancient world. We're about to look at the forensic evidence that links the soldiers of this ancient army to people living today. If you want to see how science is uncovering these lost chapters of history, like this video and subscribe to Kurdishpedia before we move on. The destruction of Nineveh proved that a voluntary confederation of free tribes was a more effective military and social model than the rigid, slave-driven systems of the era's absolute despots. By choosing to unite, the Medes broke the cycle of Assyrian tyranny. Unlike nations formed by modern migrations, the Median Union was rooted in its native soil. These mountains didn't just provide a defense, they formed the very identity of the tribes who lived among the peaks. Even when the Median political dynasty eventually fell to the rising Achaemenid Empire, the spirit of this Zagros Union didn't disappear. Their regional structures and cultural identity were too deeply embedded to be erased by a change in leadership. The Achaemenid kings recorded this reality in stone. In the Behistun inscriptions, the Medes are officially recognized as the second greatest power and a primary pillar of the new empire, ensuring their influence remained central to the state. We see this influence throughout the ruins of Persepolis, where Median culture and military status are prominently displayed. This decentralized identity acted as a shield, preventing the people of the Zagros from being absorbed or forgotten by the empires that followed. Centuries later, the Greek commander Xenophon documented his own encounter with these mountain dwellers while leading his army through the high passes. He called them the Karduchoi. He described them as fiercely independent warriors who lived in these rugged heights and refused to compromise their autonomy for any imperial power, no matter how large. From the Hurrians and the Mitanni to the Medes and the Karduchoi, a clear pattern emerges. A continuous succession of independent tribes inhabiting the same terrain and maintaining the same defiant culture. Today, we recognize the modern descendants of this lineage as the Kurds. To see past the written records, we have to look at forensic science. Researchers have begun extracting ancient DNA from skeletal remains found in archaeological sites across the Zagros to map the biological history of the region. These ancient remains, some dating back thousands of years, were recovered from sites like Shanidar Cave and the surrounding ancient mounds where the ancestors of the Medes once lived. Testing identified specific genetic markers, haplogroups J2 and R1A, present in high concentrations within ancient mountain populations. Comparing these results to modern samples revealed a direct statistical match. Today's Kurdish populations carry the exact same genetic markers as these ancient people. While most ancient groups were displaced by war or sweeping migration, the ancestors of the Kurds remained anchored in their homeland. This continuity, living in the same geography with the same genetic signature for over 30 centuries, is a rarity in human history. This ancient lineage isn't just found in a lab, it's alive in the vibrant culture and traditions of the Kurdish people today. History shows that the ideals of federalism and voluntary alliance weren't invented in the West. They were engineered 3,000 years ago in the Zagros by tribes who realized unity was the only way to safeguard freedom against absolute rule. Modern Kurds are the heirs to this genetic bloodline and this ancient legacy of autonomy. If this look at the secrets of the Zagros changed your perspective, help us uncover more by liking, commenting, and sharing this video. Together, we'll keep the